of a song. Good morning, Jackie Ankara trying to warm up our hearts this morning. Let your power go up. Is that the song?
So no, it's let your power. Yeah, but he said let your power.
Okay. So the power is falling right.
So power fall on you.
Jackie, good morning.
Good morning to you, Antina. I call her Antina.
Oh, okay.
She's got a very wonderful voice there. I'm happy she's bounced back into music.
I told you that don't give up on people here. That's why I told you that in 2018, just hold on, wait for me when I release my single. It will shock me entirely. Okay, don't give up on people here.
Right.
I'm telling you.
Certainly, I agree with that because I mean, I think 2018 is the year where you have to give it your best. Whatever you think you have in you that you haven't tried, you haven't unearthed, it's time to at least try it. Go out there, don't be afraid. Whatever it is, I mean, failure is part of life. If you fail, big deal. You just get up and move on, keep pushing because she's come out with this beautiful one and I enjoyed it. And she's excited. I think your passion will always show up at some point in time and you can't hold it back. You just have to release it. So when Bright sings, I'll certainly maybe be backing vocalist.
She couldn't have held back the music because the music is in it, is inborn. I mean, if you listen to a song, Nah She Die, sweet song there. But Bright says what he wants to sing.
I'll be backing vocalist.
No,
how much will you pay me?
It's not that I want to sing. I'm already recording.
Last Friday he was singing though, and you know, it sounded a bit like Shatter's new song, Freedom.
Just
I could hear his name, Bright, Amfo. So definitely, he has it in him.
You know what?
I believe in you.
I simply keeping this a secret. When it is out, it is a big one.
That's right.
I'm telling you.
But you know, speaking of, I mean, going out there and making sure that you're trying what you can. I met the president at the musical grand ball, and I stopped him and I requested for a selfie. And everybody else, if you look at the photo, everybody else was looking into it. I'm sure they also wanted to ask,
but they didn't ask.
They didn't have the courage. So in 2018, have courage, confidence, go ask for it, get it. You don't lose anything.
But if you ask and you didn't get, what happened?
But like the president give me a gun, she be normal.
No one will even know. That's the exciting part about it. And say,
oh, you see, everybody would have known because when I stopped him, everybody was wondering, why did the man stopped at the boys' table?
I mean, you go think I'm cool like that.
Now, if the president had given me a going, he told you.
All right. Good morning, Ghana. Good morning, Africa. Good morning to the rest of the world. It's another Wednesday morning. I think it's the first Wednesday of the year,
it is.
2018. And midweek, I'm excited. You know how midweeks are. You relax, you take a look at what you've planned for the week. I'm not too sure most of you might have planned something this week because the week was kind of a holiday from the beginning. The rest doesn't seem to be too exciting about going to work. Hey, but I guess some of you are still on holidays. We know you resume properly, fully on Monday. But those of you who are working, yes, it has started. The year has started. We're moving on. We're grateful that you joined us. This is the best breakfast in Ghana. GJ said it. I am not the one saying it. And so you got to stay here from now till 9 a.m. It's a midweek, as we told you. We'll excite you. We'll get you ready to be part of productive society.
Man, George.
Good morning. And he's here.
I heard your name at a certain meeting. What was that? Say again. Sorry, please. Read the news.
Right. He has all the news from Africa, beyond Ghana.
I'm sure people want to beat him for TV licenses.
You know, the
no, he won't be beaten. I mean, as for the TV licenses, I'm sure the president this morning is.
There was this guy who said if they want them to pay the TV license, they should just fix it in his alcohol. You know, anytime he goes to the bar,
they should take
from the alcohol.
So they should levy
any alcohol purchase.
Okay, so that each time he buys alcohol,
so he just because he's not going to take out the money to pay.
Exactly, he just needs a camouflage, then he'll pay.
But I honestly, I think that some might think that 3 cities isn't anything. But I tell you, there are places where even 50 pesos is a big deal for people. I'm telling you, I mean, I've seen students who will have to walk to school because the fare in a bus to the school is 50 pesos. And they won't because that 50 pesos can buy them the bambara beans to feed them the whole day. So instead of using the 50 pesos to pay as fare to go to school, they rather use it to buy bambara beans and get fed the whole day to be able to go through lessons. So in our rural community, 3 cities is such a big deal. I'm telling you.
It is. And I'm wondering, you know, in the UK where TV license is collected, if you go and buy a television set, the vendor or whoever sold the TV to you has an obligation to the TV license folks to give your details to them.
Yeah.
Here,
So you
what
pay.
happens?
Yeah.
Even if you buy a second-hand
work that
TV,
way.
they're able to trace, and they have a gadget. I think it's an infrared or so. They go house to house, and then as soon as it beeps, they know that there's a TV there.
set here.
They note the address, and they serve you a bill to go and pay. In our situation, we are being told to voluntarily go and pay. So how do you know those houses that are not numbered, or those houses that are not being properly captured under the Ghana Post GPS or whatever it is, that is not fully effective anyway? How do you trace that every single household and every single TV owner is actually paying? And somebody finally told me yesterday that, look, if I can get a projector and I can get a white screen and I have my no, but if you have a projector, you have a white screen, and you have your computer or whatever it is, and you go onto Facebook Live and you can watch TV3. Yeah, you are watching TV.
You're buying data, you should know that, and that's more expensive.
But the point is, it just comes to the bottom line that no one seems to agree with the TV line. So they should scrap it as of now until we get to the system.
I think I'm being hypocrite. If you can pay $100 for DSTV, how much is 3 CDs?
It's not the same thing, George. If I own 10 televisions in my house and you're going to charge me 3 CD per television just because you want to improve, as it were, the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, which we don't seem to appreciate because it's not giving us the content we want, then you can't compare that to paying $100 for DSTV because it's giving me what I want. Exactly. That is why I'm going in for that service.
George, the Director General of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation had said earlier on, I think CTFM, that you're not paying for owning the TV set. You're paying for content.
Yeah, okay. But then, is it not saying something contrary to the law?
A lot of contrary. What the law says, you're paying for owning the TV set. But if you still go onto their website, where they frequently ask questions for the TV license, it tells you that you're actually paying for owning the TV set. So there's contradiction. Exactly. And mind you, it was the Director General of Ghana Broadcasting Corporation that instigated this 11 questions formed by the Chief Justice. So then they are going to be collecting. What are they collecting for? In any case,
to improve their operation.
So we will talk about this matter.
So we have more on video.
In my view, look, I am happy that I know that indeed the president will say something about it. This is a nuisance tax. Honestly, it is a nuisance tax, and something has to be done. It is up on those who are government leaders to deal with this. It is a nuisance tax today. It will be a nuisance tax tomorrow. Let us deal with it.
Right. Can you imagine that the law even says that GBC will have to fix your radio and TV in the law?
Johnny, you
have not read it. I'll read it to you after this.
All right. And so, as a time for news on your favorite morning show, NewDay. Thanks for staying. We start off from the presidency, where President Akufo-Addo has assented to 5 bills, including the Special Prosecutor Bill. At a press signing ceremony at the Flagstaff House in Accra, the president was confident the laws will promote effective development, enhance and deepen Ghana's democracy.
The 5 bills also include Northern Development Authority Bill, the Middle Belt Development Authority Bill, Coastal Development Authority Bill, and the Zongo Development Fund Bill. President Akufo-Addo spoke about the importance of signing the bills to the development of the country's democracy and infrastructural enhancements. President Akufo-Addo first spoke about the office of the Special Prosecutor Bill.
So it's gone through a lot of controversy. But my hope and expectation is that the establishment of this office is going to be an important step in our collective determination to root out corruption in the public life of our country. All of us know that it has been a major bane in the development of Ghana. And hopefully this office, that is its intention, will make that contribution and make sure that public officials, past and present, are held to account for their actions, and that corrupt acts will no longer go without investigation, and if necessary, sanction.
He again spoke about the other development bills.
In the course of the campaign, we indicated that we wanted to try a new approach to the development of our country, a new approach that went towards a decentralization of the development paradigm, and to have a way of funding directly the development needs of the constituencies. Our belief is that the centralized approach to development that we have witnessed virtually the entire period of our independent life has not been successful in delivering development at the grassroots of our society. And therefore, we made this commitment that we would spend every year on each constituency the equivalent of $1 million. And that these developmental authorities that are now going to be put in place will be the vehicle for the management of these funds and the expenditure of the equivalent of $1 million per constituency commitment.
Some Ghanaians still remain hopeful of government's promises and look forward to a successful year. A cross-section of the public say they expect government to tackle education, corruption, and improve on the standard of living of Ghanaians this year.
On the free senior high school policy, some said they look forward to reforms as well as infrastructural development.
I would like to commend the government for good work done by trying to implement most of the campaign promises. And my expectation is more infrastructure as far as the educational system is concerned. More infrastructure should be put in place so that the free SHS dream will come to a full reality.
About the free SHS education, people are really hammering on it because it seems things are really crooked and they need to stand very firm with their policies so that things will really go on for the case coming.
Others expect more on the fight against corruption.
Though there are certain flaws and other corruption issues, I'm just hoping that the government will take a critical look at that, solve those corruption issues and ensure that the necessary things has to be done and has to be done at the right time. That way I know that Ghana will be very good in 2018.
From the very beginning, the president was in a rush to make sure that he fulfilled the promises. You could see the free SHS and other promises that he has. I mean, the one village, one dam, and then the factories that they promised that they should do that, because you know the rural areas, there are a lot of people there who are suffering, so that to stop them from moving to the cities.
And now to the topical issue which has to do with the TV license fee, where mixed reactions have greeted the setting up of special TV license courts to deal with people who refuse to pay the mandatory TV license fee, with some arguing that the state broadcaster does not deserve the money. A cross-section of the public questioned how the revenue would be utilized.
The Ghana Broadcasting Corporation officially relaunched the TV license fees collection in 2015. This followed years of non-payment. The new rate per the law indicates that domestic television users are to pay between 36 and 60 cedis for one or more TV sets in a household. TV set repairers and sales outlets are to pay an annual sum of between 60 to 240 cedis. After 2 years of non-payment by TV users, 11 special courts have been set up to prosecute defaulting TV users and operators. This has ignited some public outrage.
Raising court for this matter will not be necessary until the matter is being informed and people are aware of it. That's all. People are going to pay the tax.
I'm looking at the practicality of it and the feasibility of it. If only that can solve the problem. But I don't think, personally from my point of view, I don't think it will curb the issue of not paying TV licenses.
To me personally, it's not too attractive. And even the number of Ghanaians that patronize that station, I don't know.
A cross-section of the public doubts the money will be appropriately utilized.
These days we pay taxes and people misuse them. Even those who collect taxes, what is the guarantee that they will present good receipt to present it to government?
Why must we pay the TV license? And what must we use that money for? That is the question. If we know the how we are going to use the money for the TV license, I think people are going to pay.
And now to the health sector, where mental health patients in Ghana would have to endure some more weeks without drugs until new drugs are procured. Even though processors have begun to procure drugs for mental health treatment, information from the Mental Health Authority indicates it will take some time since most of the drugs are from outside the country.
7 years, psychiatric hospitals across the country have been operating without procured medicines needed for healthcare delivery. Drugs for treatment has mainly been dependent on NGOs and benevolence of individuals. This is taking a toll on effective mental health care delivery across the country. Families who cannot afford the expensive drugs from private hospitals resort to alternative means of treatment, including prayer camps and spiritual healers. This, according to the head of communication at the Mental Health Authority, Kweku Brobe, has negatively affected mental health treatment.
Those things that, they go into these alternative means, that they employ, that does not help. And in most of the time, they come back again with an aggravated condition, and then you tend to spend more resources, treating these cases, which would have been perhaps nipped in the bud, at a more earlier stage.
Even though procurement processes have begun, he was unsure when drugs could arrive at the hospitals, since most of the drugs are bought overseas.
This is being done by the Ministry of Health's procurement team. So in as much as we are in contact with them, we know that the process has started. And again, most of the psychotropics are brought in from overseas. So definitely, you do expect some time lapse.
Recently, TV3 reported on some patients at the Accra Psychiatric Hospital who are relapsing and whose state of health continue to threaten health workers due to lack of medications.
Hopefully, with this procurement process that's in place, when the medication comes in, as and when it lasts, we will trigger the next procurement process, and we hope that within that period, we are able to go through the processes so that we do not have that shortage.
For many years, the Accra Psychiatric Hospital has been in the news for varied reasons, ranging from shortage of consumables and congestion.
The Old Students Association of the Ghana Secondary Technical School, GSTS, has put together a legal team to fight for justice for the student who was allegedly shot by a police detective. The legal team, comprising all students of the school, will offer legal advice and strategies for a proper execution of their case. The prosecutor on the case is a police officer, but the All Students Association fear the case may be compromised, hence their decision. The move, they say, is also to help ensure that justice is served. The students have also hinted of a setting up of a legal fund to assist the family of the deceased in case they run out of funds. The All Students are offering the legal advice and strategy to the prosecutor of the case after a police officer shot a final year student of the Ghana Secondary Technical School, GSTS, Lawrence Beidou, and injured 2 others. The suspect, Detective Shaibu Ejay, is scheduled to reappear in court on January 12th. And now to business, where the Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index ended the year at 52.73%, an impressive performance over the previous year's performance of negative 15.33%. TV3 Business takes a look at the top 5 best performing stock for the year 2017.
The Ghana Stock Exchange in 2017 saw a very strong performance, trading some 295 million volume of shares at the value of 465 million cedis, an increase of 91.87% over the previous year's figure. The GSC Composite Index similarly ended the year impressively at 52.73%, and the Financial Stock Index at 49.51%. The managing director of First Bank Brokerage, Edem Akpenyo, says the market's performance is a marked improvement over expected projections.
Very interesting rises in the market, and I think that it's been quite good. This year we had the financial stock index underperforming the composite as a whole. Usually we will have the financial index outperforming in a good year. See, the majority of the best performers were not in the financial sector, so that led to the CI outperforming the financial sector index.
Top 5 best stocks for the year 2017 on the Ghana Stock Exchange is led by Benzo Oil Palm Plantation, which appreciated by 194% in value, followed by Goil, which gained 144%, and the Standard Chartered Bank 107%.
Prior years, we have seen a lot of demand for BOB shares which were not available, and that had pushed up prices in the year 2017, which had caused it to do so well. And I think that we can expect that we may have some good performance from BOB again this year.
The others are HFC Bank, which appreciated in value by 85%, and Total Ghana gaining 78%.
We are looking at not only HFC doing local business, but now that they are part of an international group, that means that they are open to get international business and all that. We are also hoping that there will be some model changes that will make the company more profitable, more aggressive, and all those things. They recently undertook a rights issue which was oversubscribed. So you can understand that there's a lot of investor belief that this company is going to come up and show some very positive results. That, I think, led to also their impressive performance on the market.
Away from business, let's delve into politics, where an associate professor of political science is cautioning former President Rawlings not to meddle in petty internal party squabbles, else he would not be taken serious. Professor Ransford Jambo is of the view this would again undermine his image and integrity as a former president and a statesman.
Professor Ransford Jambo was responding to the decision by the former President Rawlings not to criticize the sitting government, but rather focus on his NDC party. According to the former president, the call on him to unleash criticism on the perceived corruption in the NPP government was unacceptable. He explained that he would rather focus on dealing with the corruption in his party to protect the integrity underpinning the formation of the party. However, an associate professor of political science, Professor Jampo, says the decision by former president defies his own probity and accountability maxim. He impressed on the former president to muster courage and also criticize the sitting government for any wrongdoing.
He should be a statesman and just remain behind the scenes. And where necessary, you come out to give wise counsel, not to one particular party, but to the nation. Okay, using the principles of equity, social justice, probity, and accountability. He should be able to hold all regimes accountable and to keep all regimes, on their toes.
Professor Ransford Jampo again urged the former president to leave above petty internal party politics of the NDC and rather focus on offering counsel to the current president, Nana Akufo-Addo.
If you look at the statement, his speech, he was essentially using those principles to explain the electoral defeat of the NDC that is already in opposition. I think that is completely relevant. We all know why the NDC lost. The principles must be used to keep the existing regime, the current government, on its toes.
Professor Jampo, who is currently the director of Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana, cautioned former President Rawlings not to impose his views on the party or risk facing stiffer resistance from members.
A political party is an institution. It cannot be run like a spiritual church that will die when its founder dies. Okay, and so he must allow the internal democratic structures and decision-making process of the party to flow so that he can continue to maintain his image, reputation, and respect within his party.
Welcome back. So, as usual, it's time for headlines. Now, we have two newspapers ready. We'll start off with Ghanaian Times. It says 50 suspected criminals were arrested during the Yuletide. Also, war against corruption in public office. The Office of Special Prosecutor at last, as President assents to 4 other bills to fulfill his promise. Well, these are the stories carried by Ghanaian Times. Certainly. The so criminals were, quite a number. Congratulations to the police for doing that, certainly.
I think that the police mounted quite a good operation during the Yuletide. I saw a couple of them running around. Some were on motorbikes, others were in their patrol vehicles. I saw them wherever you drove. You would see 1 or 2, sometimes with a siren, sometimes without it. So I guess it was a good operation, and let's hope that it is not ending with the festive season. It will continue. We'll see a lot more people in there. Sometimes these criminals are smart. Once they know that the police have rounded up the operations, then they begin to go into action. Now that the festive season is over. So 50 of them are arrested. Let's hope and see where they end up. The only problem is that our prisons are still full. And so where to even place them is a difficulty, but kudos to the police. I'm sure they will keep us safe 2018.
But staying on the police, let me just bring to their notice, just in case they haven't seen, but most of their vehicles that are on the road seem to have problems with their lights. So either their trafficator is not working or their brake lights, one is working and one is not. I, for one, I'm bringing this to their notice because they are the same people who would enforce the law and actually stop people whose lights or tail lights are broken, headlights are broken. And so I think it's just in good taste that they themselves fix their own so that they can enforce the law effectively. But of course, kudos to them once again for arresting as many as
I think
they
that
have.
while we speak about the police performing effectively, sometime last year we spoke about the fact that their quarters or their bungalows where they live, the barracks, is not in the best of shapes. Most of them are not in the best of shape. Drive around town, go to Kaneshi, go to Cantonment Square, go around town, go to the central region, western region, check the northern region, and you find that the barracks are not in the best of shape. Now, if these fine gentlemen are supposed to be protecting all of us, having a sound mind to be protecting all of us, and where they live or where they sleep is not in the best of shapes with all the heat and the congestion and everything else, how do they deliver excellently? That motivation is not there, because if you don't get good rest, are you a doctor? If you don't get good rest, how do you perform optimally on the job? So it's a critical matter that the Minister for Interior must pause and have a look at, a proper look at some of these things. And we've been talking about it for a long time. Police, fire service, prisons, and all of the army. And where they sleep is a big problem. Never mind the fact that they themselves don't want to talk about it, because when they talk about it, it becomes something else. Most of them who are non-commissioned officers, I'm talking about the corporals, the sergeants, and all of that, they may not want to talk about it because they may not have the authority to speak to some of these issues. But to the extent that they have estate officers and they have people who are supposed to be looking out for their welfare officers, some of these things need to be properly dealt with. Because if we are commending them for arresting 50 people, they could have done more if they had a peace of mind to operate. I mean, knowing that you're on the street, risking your life, and then you go back and your pillar is falling apart or your roof is leaking, how would you want to give off your best? How?
But anyway, so the Office of Special Prosecutor also finally has come to stay. Really, at the end of the day, in as much as we've waited for this bill to be passed, do we feel there's really going to be a clampdown on corruption when this office starts working?
You see, the clampdown on corruption is relative.
It is.
Relative to the extent that the legal brains have already argued that the Constitution provides for the Office of the Attorney General, who is supposed to be doing some of these things. Okay, so the government thinks that the Special Prosecutor has to do a special thing. Parliament has approved, it's become law, the President has assented. What is left is implementation. But in implementation, the key questions that were raised prior to the presidential access that were given to it how have we responded to them?
Right.
For example, the conflict of interest and the special prosecutor reporting to the appointer, which is the president, and all the other issues that have come up. How have we responded to them so that it doesn't become the suggested witch hunting that some have said that this special prosecutor's office is going to deal with? In any case, the composition of the board or the group of people who are going to be special prosecutors, are they going to be non-partisan, or what, on what basis are we going to select them? So these are the critical issues that we need to look at. Until that time, and until we have actually shown commitment in that area, I don't think that we could possibly fight corruption. I mean, this could be just one of those many laws that have been passed and nothing really has happened in that direction. That's what I think, though. But I think it's a good sign to the extent that we are committed to it. And by commitment, I'm saying that we do not need for corruption to even occur for us to go to the office of the special prosecutor. And I don't believe in, oh, you claim that Bright has taken something, bring evidence. I mean, I don't believe. I mean, some of those things are, let's leave it for God. Let's leave it for God.
We'll hope and see how it works. But for me, I still think that the key weapon, the key tool in fighting corruption is the politician himself or herself. I don't think it is the law. It is not. Look, the laws we have in our books are quite okay to fight corruption. If we have a leader who says that I hate corruption, and so is prepared to even take his own brother or sister or nephew or his appointees to face the law, go through the process to face the law, will be way, way, way ahead in the fight against corruption. I keep asking questions. I don't know if President Magufuli fought corruption with a special office. I have no idea. Paul Kagame is said to have cleaned up the mess in Rwanda. I don't know if he used a special office. And I'm not too sure how advanced countries which have been able to make some headway in the fight against corruption, how well or how they have relied on special offices to fight corruption. I would say today, I would say tomorrow and in future that the fight against corruption is lost if the leader himself or herself is not ready to fight corruption. Look, let me cite an example. Now, what happens to the special prosecutor when he begins receiving allegations of corrupt acts? What happens? Where do you go? At the NPP's conference in Cape Coast, the president told everybody that, hey, report corruption allegations, okay? Report them. Get them to my government. Make them known to my government. Then he added a caveat. When you make these reports, be sure that you produce or provide the evidence, okay? Now, just before Christmas, on his 3-day tour of the Eastern region, what did the president say? He said that allegations against his government are simply to make his government unpopular. And I shuddered when he said that. Because I just heard the man in August say that report corrupt allegations to my government, but be ready to provide the evidence. Then a few days before Christmas, he says, oh, these allegations that are being reported are just to make my government unpopular. And I was a bit confused. Does it suggest that if allegations or some reports are made to the office of the special prosecutor, will it be said that they are just to make the sitting government unpopular, or what?
But Bright, don't you also think that the president could have said these things? And I'm just conjecturing, perhaps because of the issues with Raj and the police. I mean, they've always said that. Well, there's no. I mean, look at the 2.25 euro bond, for example. They took it off and all of that. So the president may be speaking on the back of the fact that
allegations that
have been cleared. Previous allegations that have been raised.
Did Shraj totally clear the finance minister? No. Siraj said that the finance minister breached certain rules with issuing of bonds.
Right.
Okay,
but they didn't conclude that it was corrupt.
No. A rule once breached is breached.
Right.
Yes, but you see, it didn't mean that it was corrupt.
I know, but I'm saying that. Don't even let us go there. I'm saying that in the fight against corruption, isn't allegations the first step to stopping it?
Right. Yeah. But then when you have a statutory body, a quasi-judicial body like Siraj, say that, well, nothing really. I mean, yes, there were some mishappenings, but it doesn't constitute what you are alleging that it is.
Great. And I'm saying that isn't the fight giving some impetus when allegations come out, because they remain allegations. We have institutions that are supposed to investigate them and find out whether they are true or not. Now, if what we get to know is that they are just attempts at making governments unpopular, is it suggest that don't make allegations?
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think that it does suggest that you should not make. I mean, I'm happy that the Office of the Special Prosecutor is now, it's now ready for implementation.
Right.
Let's set it up. Let's give them their terms of reference. Let's task them. Let's monitor them, and let's hope that they'll give us what it is that we want from them.
But on that same note, based on what Bright said, I feel, or what I get is the president just saying, we know the way our politics goes and the way allegations are thrown about. And so whoever does attempt to have an allegation, just make sure there's evidence so that it can go through a process.
Right.
There's a procedure, and then we can conclude whether it really is true or it was just a false allegation. Whereas I think that will sift the many allegations that seem to be thrown about.
Exactly.
Because then you won't
That's
make
the
them if
point
you don't
I
have
am
any,
making. That let us allow the allegations, but let us investigate them.
But Bright, there's a maximum of equity that says that he who alleges must prove. So
excellent.
You can't allege. If not, if we open it up and we want to investigate every single allegation, so to speak, we'll be chasing shadows.
No, Johnny,
I can come and say that I saw Amma, open your car and take something.
Yes,
from
we
it,
need to investigate.
and then we rush out there.
We need to investigate so that.
And then 2 days later, I come and tell you, well, I saw Amma taking your boxer shorts as well, the one you hung up there. We need to investigate that one.
Yes.
So
then
every single
if
one
it is found out not to be true, then we punish you.
Right.
Because you see,
whoever brought up the allegation.
Yes, it is better done that way than not to investigate. Other than that, then people will just keep quiet and watch the mess.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Those
so if you allege and you can't prove,
then we
punish you.
Exactly.
If you allege, you can prove.
Instead of saying that, don't say it because it will make government.
Touche. So let's talk about TV licenses. We'll talk more about sanitation because the Minister for Sanitation has been speaking. He says he wants Navrongo to be the cleanest city in the country.
Navrongo is very clean.
Yes, but the president also said that he wants Accra to be the cleanest. So the man who appointed Mr. Kofi Ada says he wants Accra to be clean. The minister says he wants Navrongo to be clean. What is Mr. Kofi Ada's focus? We want to know. We'll tell you about it. But let's talk TV license. Are you going to pay? Are you not going to pay? Here, George and the folks out there.
GBC in February resumed the collection of TV license fee after it was suspended for more than 2 decades. It appears the attempt to charge Ghanaians for owning television sets have proved futile. Per arrangement, dealers in TV sets will pay 5 cedis per month, while commercial users will pay 3 cedis per month for owning a television set. However, the fee will double depending on the number of gadgets. And so with the creation of a special court to prosecute defaulters, bolster efforts in future, what do you think?
In your it's a bit on the village, the bedroom for abono. Now bet you 360.
They said the government has set up a court that is going to prosecute people who fail to pay, which is to me is totally uncalled for. That's not a good way, I understand, because the education doesn't go down well to the people. The masses doesn't understand why are they paying the TV license fee. So I think the GBC have to come back again to educate the people, to let them understand that you are paying it just for this purpose. And again, they should set up a system that they have to know those who are using their stations, because in Europe we have two television stations.
A lot of stations.
One is private, and the other one is for the government. The private one, if you didn't pay when your time is due, they will cut you off. So I think GBC have to adopt that system. I think to me it's wrong that you judge somebody who doesn't pay TV license. It's wrong, because we are not used to that.
We, Ghana, we have a lot of things to be solving before reaching this side. You understand me? Because when you look at the people today, let me say, only TV, that's a common something TV. But the GBC, they have to know that this TV that they are going to collect the bill, now we have like a MTM. They have a unit or something like this. You understand me? In abroad too, they have a different stations, and they let people know. Government one, the station is always 10, but you can't see a good thing. But the private one, this one, more stations and more money. You understand me? Then this one, station is like a 50, but maybe small money. Do you understand me? But before GBC will do this, they have to take them a time to arrange themselves and come into the system. Then before putting this one into people. You understand? But if they put it now, someone, she look Ghana government, insult will come. And now when they take someone doesn't pay to the court, it's another problem that the government is creating for himself. You understand me? We say human right, democracy. But if they set up a court, this is not democracy. TV cannot take someone to go to the court and then you jail the person. TV can't do that. You understand me? It's something like someone who steals, you send him to jail. But what about the people, those stole money for the country? Big money, politicians and all these things. Did they go to jail? No, they set them free. But what about TV for 3 cities, taking me to jail and court? It doesn't make sense. If my wife Japanese see this, he will say, no, why your country is like that? TV take somebody to jail? Why? You understand me? No. You understand me? So they have to look in.
Yeah. So we provide these services. As I say, we say Sikana wuyi no, who di chia the services na wuhia se nipa no be produce you ana. And only the can say ebisa ye ho. Say assistance now, amo jeje, amo atumi no mra no ekuta omo say amo jeje. Ye say ye GBC for. Na omo na sikane ba mbe hu hawa mbe si aye den ache afa. Na ebia ko National Media Commission, ebia ko de keka ho. Na amo je ni GBC particularly no, the TV stations are yenim wo ha. And the AGTV, and some of the media stations, Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, some of the media stations are ever. Now, who be say services is buying and who produce whoever Ghana for? The Edika Ghana for you need in Yama Baby. Say, yeah, national programmer. Yeah, who's a GTV for Crampo, a full national program. And there's a Black Stars our friendly match, a Crampo boy in Emba. And then more can be so.
Together, right? To show a football match.
Answer na Oba Bonten say, that kind of services are who produce and yes, who provide Yamayeno. As I say, which the who young pokran and the decisive canaya and the amount. And the Mubesi got to biscuit D. Ebia Una Menima, answer and Nipani baby biscuits and Nama say, Nipana first can go Digana Meguma, Ubayes can Ubeko join any manner. And what kind of services on GBC for and who produce and who provide the and the Yoko Jahu TV license? Obi no argue to the fact that Obi no argue to the fact that yes sir, as I say ye TV licenses. Ye betria. But acquire ye fast on services near provided must ye TV licenses. Now the ministers who are said and we use almost 800,000 at the website. What's the budget? Now budget and you've been a better I endorse the budget now. Budget you know where the budget passed through. It passed through even from the before a budget to even come out. It to even parliament. It passed through cabinets. Cabinet approve almost 800,000 and send our parliament. Where a budget? Parliament cabinet at Nase approve almost 800,000 Ghana cedis. Ediaba ama be free and sign a minister of finance no ebeje about the parliament no or not what na see ahwem and they use 800,000 akoye website abi am sharaf within meti use almost 1,000 Ghana cedis e dey website omo ya chi o ma na menua me ma me akua gospel no tie ekure bi ase won kakase nanka no se bi di odi bedi kro onya bi e sign TV ba ko pa ne badu abroche wato abre no se bo so mo metua 3 cedis e ma buy that is don't mean na then na why ya na me ntwa ho 3 cedis.
If I have my TV in my room and I'm using DSTV, will you come and bill me for TV license?
But you also pay for DSTV service.
I pay for DSTV because they give me what I want. If GBC wants me to pay even 10 cedis a month, I can pay. If only they will give us educative programs, not some cartoon, cantata, and also the time has passed on that.
Because of TV licenses, they are creating a court. No. It's becoming like, I don't know. You see, most of the time, this is the way our politicians use maybe some power on we the Ghanaians. It shouldn't be so. There are a lot of things that you have to focus on, create committee against them, not TV licenses. Because then somebody can use maybe like DSTV without using your channel network.
DSTV is even expensive than.
It's expensive, but they give us what we want. This is what the people are saying. What they are giving us is what we want. So if you can clearly come out with something, advertise, I will bring you this football game, I'll bring you this kind of films and other things. Come out and let's see the potential in your district so that we can pay. Okay. Whatever we pay for it.
According to the television licensing law, if you contravene any provision now, you either be fined or you be, jailed not more than 1 year. So do you think with the setup of the court, people will pay the fee?
They will not pay. People will not pay. You know why? Because, okay, the TV, I bought it, put it in my room. You will come and text me for 3 cedis. Then if you take the TV from my room to you too, you stole my TV. But me, I didn't steal your money. The money, the 3 cedis is for me. You see, frankly speaking, Ghana government have to sit down and shape the system of this country. Everything should be in digital, as my brother said. You understand me? If they want to take money, they can sit down in their office. Like it has a wire, your code, your number, everything, they twist it off, then it goes off. Fine. Then I'll go and pay my bill. Then I get my receipt. You understand me? But now, you can see what they are saying. It doesn't, it's put like you want to use communism system.
In the Western world, everybody pay. You will even pay and you don't know you are paying. They've been deducting from maybe your account and you see. But this one, you say you create a court for this. They are, oh man, a musician. A+. He was against it. Why we shouldn't politicize it? When he is saying that, he said that.
People will say A+ is better now, so he just condemn anything that is coming from the party now.
And
I'm not sure. No.
We are speaking the fact. We are not condemning. We are speaking the fact. This is what, if they will go village to village and explain to people in free or local language and tell them you are going to be jailed. If you didn't pay 3 cedi, they will today say that the government should go down.
Look at the towing levy like this. Towing levy, we agitated and then it was scrapped off. I don't know if this would also,
We are saying many of us, for instance, when I say we, I'm talking about we the youths, many of the youths, we are going to resist this kind of.
So how far would this kind of one?
We are making sure, me for instance, I'm the leader of youth advocacy movements, and we are trying to, for now, we are just talking about it, and we want to, by the end of the day, we want to establish our way, the way forward. We want to make sure there is going to be a petition, and I'm telling you, by I think from next week going, there's going to be a petition outside there, trying to resist this kind of attempts. No, if in fact you want us to pay for a TV license, do we need a court? In fact, if you need a court, we already have an establishing court in there that can even
because I think we need a court. We need a court because
we do not need a court. You know what? Because right now, my problem is my sister Ikia Gospel, who is living in somewhere around Kakasenanka, who can't even feed his own children. You are going to make that person to pay. Meanwhile, you are going to make that person to pay. Meanwhile, the TV that my sister is even having right now, the TV that he's using right now, was even being sent by from his brother even outside the country.
Can also give her 3 cedis.
So why is this supposed to even be every month? The thing is, before I want to even subscribe to your services, I am supposed to even pay this when I want to even even subscribe to your services. And because right now you are not giving me any reasons to even subscribe for your services, and you want me to come and pay for the said amount. This is what we are resisting.
I stayed in Obuasi before, and this Apotia Eastern region. Look, before you even tune into a GBC, look, the pole that you are going, the Pampro, the long, look, I think it's almost about 4 billion meters. Why? And all this thing, GBC didn't tackle it. And they said we should come and rather pay the TV license. And what about if I paid and I couldn't get a channel, I couldn't get the station to watch? That means I'm paying for free.
From all indication, this whole TV license fee does not sit well with the public. Even if they want to pay, they want to know where this money will be allocated and what it will be used for. Let's know what you also think about this. Log on to our social media platforms. On Facebook, it's News on TV3, and on Twitter, it's a News TV3. Keep watching TV3 New Day. We came to you live from Nima. Thanks for watching.
This is what it feels like.
Daily Guide starts the morning and says Nana signs special prosecutor law for corrupt officials. A photograph of the president and the vice president captured here on the front page. The Independent says Donado assents to special prosecutor bill others, and NDC will rise again. Mahama. The Times, Office of Special Prosecutor at last, as president assent to 4 other bills to fulfill promise. And the Today newspaper carries the same story. Nana signs OSP bill. These are almost every newspaper this morning has that story on the front page. My guest to do the talking this morning, a member of the NDC's communication team, Yapia Kubi, is here. Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
And Happy New Year.
Same to you.
God has brought us into 2018.
Yes,
we're grateful.
Yes, we are grateful.
Right, thanks once again for your time. The last time we saw it was in 2017. We're grateful for your time with us. And then I also have a member of the NPP and a Deputy Director of Communications at the Office of the President, Fatimatu Abubakar. Good morning, too.
Good morning,
and Happy New Year.
Many happy returns.
Thanks for joining us for the first time. Hope to see you more.
Sure, I would make time.
We are grateful for your time, Fatima. Now, let's start with one story that is making headlines on almost every newspaper. The portals have it too. And the Daily Guide puts it this way and says that the President has finally assented to the Special Prosecutor Bill, which was passed by Parliament late last year. This was at a short ceremony at the office of the President at the Flagstaff House yesterday, where he also assented to 4 other bills ready passed by Parliament. They are the Zongo Development Fund, the Coastal Development Authority, the Middle Belt Development Authority, and the Northern Development Authority. Present at the ceremony was Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bamia. With the Special Prosecutors Bill effectively becoming law, the stage is set for the prosecution of alleged past and present corrupt government officials. The NDC has been bragging that the anti-graft body be brought on because it is of the view that its members would not be caught in the corruption work. President Akufo-Addo has reminded everybody not to read political meaning into the establishment of the office of the Special Prosecutor. It is therefore expected that the much talked about office of Special Prosecutor would be established in the coming days with great anticipation as to who will be appointed for the post. The Daily Guide has 2 names here. Lawyers Akoto Ampao and Philip Addison have all been rumored as likely candidates for the position. It is not clear if the President would give either of them the opportunity. President Akufo-Addo expressed the hope that the establishment of this office is going to be an important step in our collective determination to root out corruption in public life. That's the President talking there. That's the story in the Daily Guide. Fatima, let me begin with you. The Daily Guide is mentioning 2 names, lawyers Akoto Ampao and then Philip Addison. But it is also saying that they are unsure if the President will give any of them the opportunity. Is there any other name from the Flagstaff House?
I have no idea what they are talking about. First of all, let me say a Happy New Year to our cherished viewers.
Right.
I believe the president during the 2016 campaign was very brutal when it comes to the issue of corruption. And he has said to everyone that if you want to make money, go into the private sector, go and do business. But for us, our responsibility is to come and serve the people of Ghana without inducement. And for that matter, the president is going to do everything to make sure we are able to take the corruption element out of governance in Ghana. I believe it's his prerogative, and he would look for the best hands to take up this responsibility and make sure they are able to execute it very well. As to the rumors, I don't know the basis for such rumors.
There's no name at all out yet.
Not at all.
Great. And so finally it has come into reality from the beginning, the talk about it, the bill in Parliament, and then finally the president assenting to it. Now, how deep would this root out corruption?
It's very significant. When it comes to the issue of corruption, you can even look at some institutions or constitutional bodies in the past, like the Shraj, that has been assigned to look at issues of corruption. But just as the kind of the challenges our courts are having and all that, some of these issues can be filed or sent to these bodies, and it takes quite some time because they have other responsibilities as well. And you realize that the kind of results that we are all expecting to get do not usually come in handy when we need it as quick and as swift as we want. And when some of these special arrangements are put in place, I believe it will speed up the way we look at corruption issues. It shouldn't take us years to bring a closure to Woyome's issue. It shouldn't take us years to bring a closure to SADA issues or any other issues that may come up in the future. So I think for whatever reason it was set up is to make sure we look at corruption issues and we look at them swiftly, fast track them, and make sure Ghanaians are not apprehensive about when it's going to happen and it's never happening. So I believe this is very important. It's a step further
in the fight against corruption.
In the fight against corruption.
The president seemed to be worried about one thing. The story as captured by the Daily Guide says that the president reminded everybody not to read political meanings into the establishment of the office of the special prosecutor. And for me, that's a worry to the president. How do we run this office, operate in such a way that those who sit behind do not see it as an office to which hunt political opponents?
Our politics, our democracy continues to evolve. We need to educate people to understand that as we move on, when it is necessary to make some laws, to bring about some institutions to facilitate the kind of work we are doing, we have to do it and not think about the fact that this person was appointed by this government, this institution was established by this government, and for that matter, the institution is in to do the government's bidding. So he is worried, and rightly so, not for political parties, for soldiers to rally behind someone who clearly has violated that person's office and has abused the office and have used the office to amass wealth to him or herself, to the point that we know prima facie that this person has really committed some crime of a sort, but we will not allow the state institutions or the appropriate bodies to deal with the person because the person belongs to party A or party B. We are supposed to be able to separate the office, the individual, and the offense in any moment, and not say that, oh, because this person is NDC or NPP, we are witch hunting and we are prosecuting such people. So that education needs to go down well. To be done. And the president was emphatic. He's trying to reiterate it.
To deal with that.
Yes.
Is the one who sits at the top of, or the head of this office, is that person's, wherever he or she comes from, likely to determine whether what is happening is political witch hunt or not?
No, not necessarily.
Is it a difficult task to pick somebody to make sure that person is totally independent? Is it difficult task?
Not necessarily. It has nothing to do with picking the person. It has everything to do with the laws that establish the office.
But you know our politics. I mean, if I see Yao here, Yao is a member of the NDC. So if today he gets the appointment as a head of this office, you know the ordinary man on the street will read into it. If you get it, the ordinary man on the street will read into it. Can we really get an independent person?
We can, and it will show in the way that the person executes the person's mandate. One president will appoint an electoral commissioner, or even other members of the commission. They will go into an election and the person will not win. One would assume that for the fact that you appointed this person at all costs, you are supposed to win. But in the execution, you realize that the office, the kind of protection or the kind of things that are put in the act establishing that office are such that the person can barely do anything about the corruption issues.
Process.
Yeah, about the process. It may be a supervisory role. You may bring your technical know-how to bear, but as to trying to massage the laws and doing it in such a way that it favors one political party against the other, that's going to be another thing altogether. Yes.
I'm grateful, Fatima, for that. Yeah, so finally, we have it. It was a long period of commentary about it. The president has finally assented to it, and I'm sure very soon we'll see the final details. Fatima says this is a step further in the fight against corruption. Is that what you see too?
Well, Bright, let me say a good morning to your viewers and to all of us here, and wish everybody a happy new year. I think that to the extent that we live under a constitutional democracy and things are supposed to operate within the legal framework that empowers us as a country governed by law, the president has gone through the processes through parliament to establish several bills, several acts. I think the focus more or less is on the special prosecutor, but the president actually assented to 3 different bills.
Some 4 others.
4, I think,
others,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the Zongo development and then the ones establishing the development authorities and so on. So yes, Parliament has done its work in as much as there were challenges and debates surrounding how things ought to be drafted and crafted to give meaning to its actualization. Parliament has done its work. You still listen to experts in that field, and they raise issues that there are some things that are not quite clear with the special prosecutor. But we are where we are today. There's a special prosecutor bill, which the president, in the run-up to the elections, made it emphatic that is going to be the pivot around which his fight against corruption was going to be. The most important thing for me is that corruption over the years, every regime has done one thing or the other towards the fight against corruption. It is, I think we pay a lot more lip service to it than actually doing what we need to do to deal with it. We live in a system, a political system that adores the patronage system. We live in a political environment, we live in a political economy that even our norms, our standards are ones that in most cases glorify these things, the abuse of power for private gain and so on. So I think that it goes beyond just enacting acts and saying that I have this bill, I have this person in charge. It's more of a structural problem, and it's about how we organize our society as a whole. And I believe that, yes, this office, which we are being told is going to be independent, I don't think that there's any independent human being, because people are moved by their philosophies and ideals. People are moved by their convictions and so on. So usually people want us to believe that there are independent people and so on. I hold a different view, because
even within this context?
No, well, within the context of doing your work within the stipulated rules and regulations, yes, maybe you could carry out your functions within that law. But the perception that some individuals are independent or they are neutral, that is what I don't, because you are either for the continual establishment or perpetuation of the existing order, or you are for an ideal to change or to improve it. And so at every point in time, there are people who want to stand for things or to go against a particular thing. And so, yes, the bill is up. You were asking Fatima about whether the politicization of it and so on. That will largely also depend on the conduct of the government and the people that are going to man that office, because I want to believe that it is supposed to be a fight against corruption across board, regardless of your political persuasion, regardless of where you belong. I don't want to believe that this is going to be a tool to go after your political opponent. Then we can read, immediately that occurs, then we'll start reading political meanings into it. Of course.
At what point would you read political meanings into it?
Of course, if there are current corrupt acts happening within the current regime, we expect that the Office of the Special Prosecutor will take an interest in that and deal with it. I don't want to believe that the interest of the Special Prosecutor is going to be targeted only at political opponents.
I see. So assuming he or she resumes office and his or her first five things are against past government, would you read political witch hunting into it?
Well, I would want us to wait and look at the whole process that would.
Because I wanted to know at what point you would read political witch hunting into it.
Why? I made it quite clear, right? I said that if the sole mandate and the process of whatever the Special Prosecutor is going to do is only going to be targeted at political opponents, then we have every cause to ask what the Special Prosecutor is also doing to investigate wrongdoings and financial malfeasance in the government.
Asking that assuming he comes or she comes into office and for the first 10 things it is against past government, and then subsequently he or she is dealing with people in the current government. That's what I wanted to know. At what point would you say that this person is working for the government or not?
Right, I've laid.
Or you don't want to?
No, I've laid the general framework.
Okay.
I've laid the principles, and so I wouldn't want to give a timetable that if there's X number of people. But let's watch and look at what is going to unfold. I think that we all want the good for this country. We want a situation where public resources are spent properly to the benefit of the majority of Ghanaians in investing in the social amenities that we need to survive. And so I think that we are all watching and looking at the government's fight. At the moment, I don't really see it clearly, looking at indications and what's happening in government today.
The fight against corruption.
Of course, yeah, but I don't want to delve deeper into it for now because of all the constraints. I would want to see a situation where Ghanaians themselves would want to openly see the fight. You know, not long ago, last year, I think the latter part of last year, there were several polls conducted, and the perception that the current regime is corrupt was quite high. And so the most important thing is that Ghanaians ought to be assured, and they need to feel that the government is committed to this fight. But I would want to just hang that one on them, and then briefly touch on the Zongo development and so on.
A quick one before you do, I'll get Fatima to the chance to also deal with that. The paper, Daily Guide, mentions two lawyers, Akutuampa and Philip Addison, as rumors. That's what the paper is just conjecturing. The person who sits at the top of this office, how impactful would his background be to the fight?
Well, it's important because the integrity of the institution that he's going to sit on is key. And within the context of the president himself feeling that people are not going to accept this and embrace it, you know, holistically, I think that a character or a person that presents a certain neutral face, a certain neutral, you know, figure would bring some extent of acceptance to this whole thing. So I think that is key. It is important that whoever becomes the special prosecutor should be one that largely, there's no situation where we can say that every Ghanaian is going to accept whoever, but to a certain extent, to a certain large extent, must be acceptable and seen as a neutral arbiter and a fair person to man this institution. So I think that the integrity or the personality of whoever sits on it is very, very instructive and is key. That notwithstanding, the institution itself and how it conducts itself is the most important thing. The way that institution operates within the confines of the law, the way it respects due process, the way it's allow people to also have this, even if they are alleged corrupt cases against them, the right for them to also have a fair hearing and express themselves. I think all these things will amount to the acceptance and how well Ghanaians will embrace this institution.
All right, I'm grateful. You wanted to touch on the Zongo Development Fund. Okay, let me give you some 3 minutes before I come to Madam.
My understanding to this was that it's supposed to deal with the Zongos and to improve the Zongos. Right. I think largely we mention Zongos to mean a different thing. I think that we've realized that over the period, these Zongos have become more or less the slums within our towns and so on. Because in as much as people usually believe that these are areas where there are northern settlers within the south, it's a place where you'd have people from all walks of life coming in there. So these are slums. I think that what we need really is a comprehensive policy to deal with slum development. It's not just about setting up a fund. It's not about appointing a minister and putting him in charge. It's about the total economy and how people abandoned the countryside in search of non-existent jobs within the cities and end up, in these deplorable situations. So it's a bigger political economic question. It's about the linkages between how our economy is developing. It's about how the countryside is being neglected and people are moving all over into the capitals in search of non-existent jobs and ending up in these areas and so on. So I think that yes, it is not about what you do to deal with the symptom. It's about tackling really what is the root cause of that symptom that the government seeks to glorify. So yes, a bill has been passed. We look forward to the upgrade and development of these slums. But the most important thing going forward is that how do we build a society in which the person who lives in the village, the person who lives in the countryside, have the same opportunities to develop his potentials, just as the person who lives in Makati Hill or in Cantonment. And I think that once these things are harnessed properly, we would see a minimization of this rural-urban migration and other things that contribute to this slum development. And it shouldn't just be about allowing the slums to come and then you set up a ministry or you set up these things to deal with it.
I see. So perhaps in this direction, government's one district, one factory thing could come in handy here. Because then if these factories are set up in these rural communities, then we have them staying there and working and not migrating to these slums.
Well, you see, there's no doubt that the industrialization drive of our country is key. And I mean, if we want to move to the next phase of our development, we need to produce what we eat. We need to add value to our local raw materials. We need to be able to get people the jobs that they need to earn a decent living. And so, yes, any policy that seeks to put these factories and ensure that we get into production is key. However, my difficulty is the model and the approach by government, that we are going to rely on the benevolence of the private sector to put these factories all over the world. I think that you look at most models all over the place, all over the world, the state leads to a certain extent. And so, of course, the private sector is in for his profit. So he's not going to set up where he's not going to maximize his profit. The private sector is not going to say, I'm putting this factory here, although I'm not going to be competitive, although I'm not going to be able to make my profit just because I love President Akufo-Addo or I love the MPP. The private sector is going to be driven by what would make my profits.
But is it not a partnership?
No, what we are hearing is that the government is creating some enabling environment for them to set it up. But that's what I'm saying, that is going to be anchored on the basis of the real practicality about how these private sectors are going to be competitive. Mind you, you can't talk about all these factories and, for example, not deal with the issue of the economic partnership agreement. For example, this partnership allows foreigners to bring in their goods and compete aggressively with these emerging factories that you want to put up. So let's say you put up a drink factory at Nsawam, juice factory. To what extent is government putting in place the legal protection, the protection for this emerging factory that you put up at Nsawam to fight against, let's say, Coca-Cola, or to fight against Mirinda or whichever company that you talk about? So it is not just about saying that we want to put the factories there. There are challenges. You need to look at the whole economic arrangement, the linkages, the legal framework, the international relations, the WTO agreement, and how it affects all these things. And so, yes, we can talk about them. We've seen countries where you set up these factories. They will last just for 1 or 2 years, but they are not competitive. And people will end up going to bring in the already produced goods from outside.
I'm grateful, yeah. Madam, and so he's suggesting that the Zongo development thing is should be looked at from a bigger picture. Government says this is an affirmative action to provide the needs of these people in these slums. Is government not taking a look at the bigger picture?
Government is actually taking a look at a bigger picture, and I was just waiting for this opportunity to correct that kind of impression that my brother is creating. The ministry is Ministry for Inner Cities and Zongo Development. It is not just about the Zongos. It also concentrates on inner cities that have characteristics of Zongos.
Right.
You know, previously we were looking at Zongos as settler communities by maybe Northerners or people from northern Nigeria and northern Niger and other parts of the West African sub-region. But as it stands now, I was born in a Zongo community, and you make people 3 generations, 4 generations, they were born and raised there. These are not people who migrated from anywhere. But we are saying that because of their standard of living, these people cannot afford to move to Trasaku or Ridge or any other place you think may have a better living condition or environment whatsoever. And those challenges are not stemming from just the fact that they've migrated from the rural communities to those places. But we are saying that we want to look at a holistic development of our cities. And if that is the case, we should look at some communities that are underprivileged over the period and give it a facelift. And it's not just about infrastructure. It has to do with investments in education, healthcare, and sanitation. Because I was born in a Zongo community, but if I am educated, I get a very good job, I'll be able to move out to a better place without necessarily being evacuated whatsoever. So it is a project that is actually looking at the bigger picture in the short term, in the medium term, and also in the long term. I believe it will get to a point where if we get all our people going to school and getting, you know, good salaries and all that, it is a natural move.
The slums will develop.
They will develop. Some will move out. Those who are there would also be able to give a facelift to whatever we have in those areas. And even beyond those projects, I believe that anytime we think a particular group needs an intervention, just as we did for the affirmative action, then we need to make some special arrangements to make sure it happens. And that is part of the bigger picture. Although the government will have its general policies, all the norms, the ministries we know over the years that are just there, every government comes and establish the same things. But you realize that anytime a group of people are underprivileged, they need some special attention, then we need to make the appropriate laws and establish the appropriate institutions and make sure we are able to get some money in those areas for development. And also to react on the issue of the independence of the special prosecutor. I would insist that when it comes to that office, that perceived neutrality would not really give us anything from the point of appointment or in terms of implementation. Our focus should rather be on someone who has the qualification, who would be able to sit on the moral high ground too, and someone who has values and principles. It doesn't matter where the person stands. When you know that this person, when it comes to their values and principles, they are not going to back down because of precedent, because of any powers that be, then you would know that the person is not going to say, because you are from party A or party B, that is exactly what I'm going to do. What if the current set of ministers or government appointees are not engaged in any corrupt acts? Would it mean that because we think it is one-sided, necessarily we should go and get someone and come and prosecute as a scapegoat? I believe that is not the direction we should look at. Likewise, in the future or now, if we are not seeing any corrupt acts coming from the other side, why must we prosecute somebody just to show that we are selling neutrality? It will defeat the very purpose that, that upon which this office is being established. We should rather concentrate on someone who is coming on the basis of qualification, morality, the person has principles, period. And we can be rest assured that at the end of the day, the person is going to stick to the rules and make sure the processes follow through and nothing else.
Let me bring you back to the Songo Development Fund. So the picture we're expecting is to eventually see a situation where these unfortunate ones will be able to on themselves earn a living and live lives that are decent. Is that the total picture?
That is correct. I think in the interim, what the fund will do is to provide amenities and also scholarships.
Drains,
yes.
Give them opportunities to go to school.
In the short term. Give people opportunities, give the communities a facelift in terms of amenities to make sure they are able to meet the average Ghanaian communities. So when that is done, in the long term, I'm saying that if these students are able to get the scholarships, they are able to go to school, they are able to go through the systems, graduate, get good jobs, at the end of the day, they are going to move. Or if they are living in properties that belong to their parents, they are going to pull everything down and rebuild something that meets modern standards. And at that point, you would really appreciate that extra investment that the government had to make in the inner cities. Otherwise, we will be here taking pictures of one good part of Accra. Some foreigners will come and also go to the other part of Accra and go and paint that kind of picture that we don't want the world to see. So as it stands now, you cannot force any Ghanaian go back to your hometown. But the kind of interventions that government is making would ensure that they move by themselves.
I see.
And as you said, it includes the one district, one factory policy, which I also would like to react to what my brother said. It is not that the government is throwing the offer to private sector, go and establish what have you, factories. You cannot even order the private sector to do that. You cannot order the businessman to go to any district to go and put up a factory there because of your campaign promise. But our government is going into a private-public partnership in the sense that we are fronting the whole thing, trying to get the communities, the assemblies, and also the private business people to come together, as well as make sure we give the necessary incentives and supervision to make sure the factories are established and they succeed and they create jobs for Ghanaians.
What about your reaction to when he said that, for instance, how to stop, even though we now agree that Zongos are now cosmopolitan, we have people of all there, not only people from the other part of the country. Are there also efforts to stop people from coming to Accra, coming to Kumasi, coming to Takoradi and other places, or even moving from remote villages to Tamale, where you find them all over on the streets?
Yes, I believe there's been so many interventions in just 1 year to make sure people are not moving. Governance is not an event. It's a whole process, and it takes quite some time to make sure you put this and that in place. But for instance, let's take a look at the Planting for Food and Jobs program. We are trying to make agriculture look lucrative. We are trying to empower the peasant farmers, you know, to be able to scale up. Provide seedling, give them the fertilizers, give them the training, other incentive to make sure they scale up. If their programs, their farming becomes economically viable, they are making enough money, there wouldn't be any need to come to Accra to be a head porter. So the moment you make the necessary investments in the rural areas and provide the amenities, they are going to stay. If someone is staying in a village of about 200 population and there is no security, there is no electricity, bad roads, there is no water, definitely, if they get the opportunity to see the outside world, they would compare and know that they deserve something better. And you cannot stop them from moving. They are Ghanaians. But the moment you take development to their doorsteps, at the end of the day, they will be more comfortable. Everybody loves home. People travel to go and struggle and send the resources back home to enjoy. So at the end of the day, if there is some economic activity back at home, you are making enough, you are able to take your kids to school, you are able to provide good accommodation and what have you, the Ghanaian standard. I believe at the end of the day, a lot of people will be just okay staying in their communities and not moving to Accra or Kumasi or Tamale.
I'm grateful. Yeah, you want to quickly, a quick one, but just let me look at the daily graphic whilst you make your
we don't appreciate
submission quickly.
You know, about statistics shows that about close to 50% of Ghanaians now live in urban centers, metropolitan and municipal capitals. It is a huge problem, and it is not just about the talk, the lip service that people will stay at home. And so, yes, I agree that once the amenities and so on are there, it opens them up and it gives them a certain ability to be able to realize their potential. But it is huge. It is a reflection of the economic model we've been practicing over the years. And that is what I'm saying, that we need to sit down and look at how we'll be able to reverse that trend. That economic model that sees to it that what we consume are produced by people from the outside. That economic model that sees to it that we are only engaged in trading is what is a reflection of what we are seeing. And so
the president has spoken about it. He talks about it.
Yeah, and so until we're able to deal with that, yes, we can talk about, look, right, let me tell you this. What is the situation of housing in this country? To what extent is
we have about 1.6 million deficit. I don't know if it's gone.
To what extent are we dealing with it as a country, rather than just leaving it to once again the beck and call of the private sector? Because you see, the government has a responsibility to provide housing, and I mean affordable housing for Ghanaians to get shelter. So all these things are interconnected. Look, in the absence of that, what has been our government's commitment to tenants in this country over the years? Even if the houses are not going to be provided, what has been the legal framework, the protection that has been given tenants so that they will be able to get decent shelter in this country? And so it is bigger, it is broader. We can sit, we can talk about it in theory and so on, but go to the ground. Go and see the difficulties of Ghanaian people, working class, struggling to get a decent place to lay their heads. Yes, we may have slums, and like Fatima was saying, that they can live there, and then once they go to school and they grow out, they can put up a structure and move out and so on. These things need radical interventions to make them happen.
And the Zogo Fund isn't
no,
that
I don't see that. Because, for example, one of the key things in these slums is the issue about land tenure arrangements. How does government address the land tenure arrangements? And so we should take time to address and understand these things, rather than just professing things that we can take some credit within public discourse, but in actual sense, people are on the ground going through real difficulties.
Yeah, I'm grateful. Fatima, unless you want a quick reaction, but we can move on to the daily graphic. Now, the front page, the story captured on page 3 says economic prospects bright, 9.3% growth recorded in last quarter. Now, the story says that the Bloomberg Guide to the Ghanaian Economy in 2018 has painted a positive picture about the country's economic prospects, saying the economy grew 9.3% in the third quarter of last year as oil production increased. It said the growth, if sustained, would mark a turnaround for the country. The daily graphic also gathered that from the Ministry of Finance that oil revenue for the last quarter of 2017 amounted to $161.98 million. The economy has been under an IMF program since 2015, and growth plummeted to the lowest in more than a quarter of a century in 2016 as it enacted austerity measures. That's the Bloomberg Guide report on the Ghanaian economy. Fatima, this is a positive note for government from where we were told we started from 2017, the economy then, and what the Bloomberg Guide is reporting now.
It's a very, very good picture, and rightly so. It's all come as a result of the kind of measures that the government has put on the ground to ensure fiscal discipline. You realize that from the same report, you realize that over the past 5 years, the challenge Ghana was facing was overspending. We spend everything and we save nothing, and virtually we bring the budget, come back in less than 7 months to say that we've exhausted that and we need a backup and all that. But I believe if this finance minister and the government, and definitely the vice president of the republic, who is the head of the economic management team, say that, you know what, we need to protect the purse in a way that we should not overspend. And if we are not overspending, it means a lot of planning, proper planning goes into whatever goes out, and we are able to protect our finances in a way that will not put Ghana in a vulnerable position anytime soon. Because the moment we are exhausting our budget and coming back and requesting for more and overspending, and sometimes even the loans, our loan portfolio, we are borrowing everywhere and indiscriminately, and at the end of the day, we are not able to put our own capacity to generate revenue into perspective. Then at the end of the day, we cannot realize this kind of growth. But I believe the technocrats, the economic management team, the finance ministry are putting in that kind of measures to ensure discipline when it comes to government expenditure. And that is exactly what has gotten us to this situation. And it's not just about the GDP. Look at inflation from 2015 to now. We are doing well. We are doing well. We are moving from double digits. We are coming to single digits. And when it comes to growth, we are moving from the 3 point something to the 9s. It should show that someone is doing something right. And as it stands now, I believe that's a very good picture, and we encourage the team to even do more.
From where you sit, do you see this growth reflecting in our daily lives in terms of what we spend, what we eat, where we sleep, and utilities in particular?
It does. But as I said, it will not come to you quickly as an event, but it will spread over a period of time. You would realize it. If inflation is coming down, you would realize that your spending, everything will begin to change, because the prices on the market, you will go, and a whole lot of things, they are not increasing at a rate that you would have expected year on. But you would realize that, in fact, we are putting in a lot of efforts to ensure that the public feels it, Ghanaians feel it. You go to the market, and whatever figures they put on paper is reflecting in businesses, it's reflecting in the banks, it's reflecting on interest rates when you go to take loans and what have you. But it will not come as an event. You would not wake up and you are in heaven and everything has changed. But I believe over the period, as the figures continue to change, you will go to the markets and realize that prices of goods are quite stable, and also realize that, okay, I'm going to the banks for loans and the interest rates are coming down, and it will affect the the living of almost every Ghanaian.
Before I go to Yao, the finance minister promised in his last budget that January we'll see electricity bills in particular go down between 13 and 25%. Do you, where you sit as a deputy communications, if you have an idea when this implementation is starting in this month?
Not the exact date,
right.
but as he said, I believe that this is done in collaboration with the Energy Ministry, because right. now when it comes to power generation, we don't have problems at all. Even from the latter part of the fourth quarter of last year, issues of generations are just out. We don't have problems with generation. So definitely they need to make some adjustments on tariffs. They need to sit with the PURC, and as and when their work is ready, I believe that will be communicated to the public in good time.
Grateful. Yeah. Now the economy from the beginning of 2017, per the report of the government, was not in very good state. Today we see the last quarter growing at 9.3%. For government, this is positive because of measures that have been put in place to stabilize the economy and build on it. What do you make of this growth?
Well, right. I think that usually these discussions about growth, etc., and so on, gets interesting. Immediately you take them out of the typical economic language by macroeconomists and so on, and you bring it to the lay language, you know. But you see, the point is that even in war, during war, when there's war in any part of the world, there's growth. The point about growth,
because a lot of
the point
activities.
The point about growth, in my view, is not just the growth. It's about who benefits from that growth. If you listen to what you just read, this is a Bloomberg report, which is touted as one of the biggest, rating institutions and so on. But you see, in there says that the growth is largely due to the oil sector.
Right.
To what extent does Ghanaians have control in our oil? What is our share of the oil that the country produces? I don't think that we can answer that question now. But the point is that, yes, we may be getting some taxes and royalties and so on, which adds up to our revenue base and boost things up and so on. So the point is not about the growth. It's about who is benefiting from that growth.
Do you think the growth is going outside, not
precisely? I mean, you look at all our productive sectors, it is externally oriented. You look at the mining sector, completely taken over by foreign mining firms who, as our governments, have banned local mining companies. These foreign companies, Anglo Gold, Newmont, etc., they are mining. People will say that they are mining within the legal framework, but the point is that they are still mining, as against the local people who are small-scale miners who mine and their proceeds remain in the country. You look at the agri sector, apart from the smallholder farmers and so on, you look at these, the non-traditional produce and so on, how it's oriented towards the external market. You look at the oil sector, you look at even our telecommunication sector. And so yes, our governments may get some revenue in the form of taxes and so on, but that doesn't address the fundamental problem of the economy, of Ghanaians taking control of our economy and ensuring that we get the jobs, we get people to produce for our economy to be able to get to what we need to get to. But you see, that this trend has been in existence for quite some time. So you will have regimes, governments will come and say, oh, we are doing well. You remember under the NDC, we even had a single-digit inflation for a long period. We will see growth and so on. This has been happening from the 1980s. We started the structural adjustment program. We went into economic recovery program. By 2000, they said we should declare ourselves HEPIC. They will commend you. By 2008, a new regime comes in. They will say, oh, the government performed poorly and so on. I remember when this regime said that, oh, going to the IMF is an embarrassment. It's an admission that the previous managers of the economy were doing badly. They come and then they renew with the IMF and they even extend it. But today, yes, we can sit here and talk about how we are not overrunning our expenditure like Fatima is saying and so on. how we are spending within the scope in order to please these agencies. But the bottom line is that when we go to the polls, we don't vote for the IMF. We vote for the president to ensure that our living condition in terms of housing, we get a decent place to stay. Our expenditure on the utilities, water, electricity is fair. The young people of this country are getting the needed jobs that they deserve. These are the things the market women who are trading are seeing that, I mean, they are able to get the capital and they are able to take care of their families and so on. These are the minor things. The taxi driver and the trotro driver who is going to buy fuel is buying it at a price that they find appropriate. These are the things that at the end of the day, we are going to assess our leaders on. We are not going to assess them on the basis of whatever indicators they are able to please the IMF and the World Bank. And I think that is the point that our governments have been missing. And that has been the bane of the Ghanaian economy.
I'm grateful. Fatima, wrap up quickly.
Yeah, quickly. I would like to say that, you know what, government from these revenues and what the ordinary Ghanaian also is never exclusive. It's not as if they are on their separate ways and have nothing to do with each other. Whatever we receive is
I think his worry is that the non-oil sector isn't experiencing the growth. He feels that would rather propel a kind of growth that would be good to this economy.
It will, but now we have oil, and let's take it. Let's add it to it. It will also help us in a way or two. Although we want to look at the non-oil sector, it's another part of it. But if the oil sector is also bringing us revenue, why not? We should also look there and make sure we are able to get the most of it. He was talking about our stake in the oil sector. Maybe we can talk of before it lost. Maybe the uncertainties and all that, new pits were not drilled and all that. But as it stands now, if there was anyone who had any doubt as to investing in Ghana's oil sector, now the issue, there is a closure to the whole issue. So I believe more and more revenue is going to come from the oil sector. And we take the most that we can get from that place. But that is not to say that the government will at any point abandon the non-oil sector. From all indications, you would know that the Akufo-Addo government is radical about industrialization, and we are doing everything to make sure it succeeds to create jobs and bring revenue at the local level. And that's exactly what the government is doing.
Just a quick one. I remember during the launch of the One District, One Factory, the president assured Ghanaians that by the end of 2017, he was going to set up 51 factories. Can Fatima tell us which of them are in existence?
I see.
I'll bring you the list.
All right. Grateful. Fatima Abubakar is the Deputy Director of Communications at the Office of the President. Grateful for your time with us. We hope to see you some more to share with us all that you have. And Ayapia Kubi is a member of the NDC's communication team. Gentlemen and lady, grateful for your Wednesday morning. If you send in your comments, Johnny will come back very soon and read them. We'll pause here. We'll have sports after this. All right, welcome back and thank you very much. This is NewDay Live on TV3. My name is Johnny Hughes, and let's get into some more conversation about sanitation and issues related to, things that matter to us. I told you earlier about the Minister of Sanitation and Water Resources, Joseph Ada, who said that he wants Navrongo to be the cleanest in Ghana. But I'm sure you also do know that at the time that the Accra Metropolitan Assembly named the President of the Republic, Ni Kwaku Okujiamban I, he made a promise, and he says that he wants Accra to be the cleanest city, by the time he leaves office. So the big question is, here's a sanitation minister who is supposed to be ensuring that the president's ultimate goal, which is to make Accra the cleanest of all the cities in this country, is paramount. The sanitation minister has another dream. That is a conversation perhaps for another day. But on the back of that particular conversation, the Accra Metropolitan Assembly has issued a press release, and I should like to share bits and pieces with you. It says the Accra Metropolitan Assembly AMA wishes to inform the general public, especially hawkers and traders who have encroached on pavement, footbridges, and other open spaces, all ceremonial routes, to leave these places before the 8th of January. Sometime next week, as the AMA will be conducting a decongestion exercise
to rid the metropolis of the activities. It says also that they wish to bring to the fore that the Christmas festivities are over and their continuous activities are a contributory factor to the heaps of garbage deposited along the roads. The Assembly also wishes to remind the general public that the activities are contrary to the AMA Hawkers bylaw of 2011 and Section 17.1 of the Road Traffic Regulations 2012, the LI 2180, and punishable by law. Also, the AMA is cautioning persons or group of persons who have illegally occupied government-reserved lands and areas which have been cleared by the Assembly previously to vacate with immediate effect, especially those along the railway line, Kwame Nkrumah Circle, Aveno, parts of Jowlu, and other parts within the jurisdiction of the AMA. It goes on and on and on. But we'll have a conversation because the man who sits atop the office of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, the Honorable Ni Ajay Soa, is my guest, the Lord Mayor of Accra. Honorable, good morning.
Good morning.
Happy New Year.
Very happy returns. Let me also say Happy New Year to you and wish the people of Accra a Happy New Year. Promise them that this year is going to be an action year. We are eager to transform the city. So we'll solicit in their support.
1 year down the line in the seat as mayor, how's it been for you?
Well, it's been an interesting job. You have big dreams, high expectations of the people. We've made some significant gains. We've had challenges as well, but it has been a learning curve. Yeah.
Interesting. So this press release is pregnant with a lot of issues. Sure. We should like to pick them one after the other. Yeah. Sometime last year, Moses Abo led the team to go to the Kwame Nkrumah Circle, decongested, and I was against the open banning of some things out there. I thought it was wrong, but I supported the decongestion. A few months down the line, the people are back there. What seems to be the problem with congestion in Accra?
Well, I mean, thank you very much, and I really appreciate the support that you have also given to the city authority. What we are doing the good things, and then we also accept the constructive criticism because the city belongs to all of us, and I recognize the contributions of the major stakeholders, including the media. At Circle, the people are not back at Circle. What happens at Circle is that our men are deployed in the day. So during the day, the pedestrian walkways are free and people are freely there. However, in the evening when our men are not there, Circle becomes a nightmare. So we intend to do a 24-hour decongestion exercise and maintain security, make sure that we enforce our bylaws around Circle as well. But it is not only the Circle pedestrian walkway. There's the whole Circle enclave, because Kwame Nkrumah Circle is the main transit point in Accra, and everybody connects to wherever you are going to within the Kwame Nkrumah Circle. So if you read carefully in our press statement, we mentioned certain areas like Aveno, Odona. These are all areas within the Circle enclave, and some also along the railway line. So this particular exercise will be done in collaboration with major stakeholders, including the Ghana Railway Authority, the Ghana Police, the military, our own Metro Guards, and who are going to be the men on the ground, and then with major stakeholders, including the media.
But Mayor, if you say that the people are not back at Circle, I may beg to differ. For example, if you would take a graphic look, driving from TV3 through the busy internet road, leading back to Circle, the pavements are full. They're full with people.
I admit that they're
at
full
night
in
you
the
find
day.
people
Of course,
lying there.
That's what I've said.
Is there a plan to have a 24/7 kind of guard so that we don't have these things? This is the Millennium City.
Of course, I mean, it's Accra. It's a city that we must live in and love it. It's a city that belongs to us. And I have said earlier that during the day, the place looks free. In the evening, where our men are not available, that's where the hawkers come back to what. So I have admitted to that already. The plan to make sure that the place is maintained. You know, we also made reference to the Road Traffic Regulation 2180.
Before we get to that, what's the plan? Particular plan? Are we starting an evening program to have some of your men out there? And when is that to
I
take
think we are
effect?
having a conversation, so I want to broaden the discussion so that
I'd like us to take it one after the other.
It is coming.
So when are we're starting the decongestion on the 8th of January.
Sure.
When are we starting the 24-hour thing?
The 24-hour thing will start when we start, because there are certain strategic locations that we must make sure that there's a 24-hour service that we are providing.
So give me top 3.
Oh, one is certainly the Circle area.
Okay, 2.
Another area is La Paz, and I'll give reasons for mentioning La Paz.
Right.
And the other area is the Kimbu Enclave. That's the Ridge Kimbu Enclave, which is also becoming a problem. Now, the Ridge Kimbu Enclave, from the Octagon building area into the other, you realize that that's where a lot of the big businesses, the banks' headquarters are.
Right.
And as much as this is a city that offers business, especially trading, we can't mix it.
Okay.
You should be able to demarcate everybody's lane, and these are the markets that you are supposed to operate in, and these are places where we do businesses, and the businesses should be occupied in a very serene environment.
Right.
So we can't allow hawking and trading. You step out from TV3, and right in front of TV3, people are hawking and selling jende, tomatoes.
That's an overflow from Tema Station and the Makola market.
I will explain. And that's why, whether it's a spillover or overflow, you can't allow it.
So what's the plan?
The plan is to make sure that the people go back into the market.
But the market is full.
The market is not full. If you go to the market. I have spent 6 months of my time visiting all the markets. There's no single market that I have not been. I had engaged the market. I've been to Mokola, I've been to Kanshin, I've been to Malata, I've been to, the market.
So the market women who themselves have come out.
The market women go to the market, and the market women in the market will tell you that if you don't tell their sisters to come into the market, they will also join them, and they continue to join them.
Wow. So when it hits 8th January, we will start seeing 247 guard in at least 3 areas.
In certain strategic areas.
So Circle, La Paz, and you mentioned one other.
And I mentioned La Paz also because, look, my brother, if you go to La Paz, it's quite chaotic there.
Okay.
And the chaos is not only as a result of the trading activity, but the commercial drivers as well. It's on record that La Paz records the highest road crashes in the whole of Accra.
That's right.
15% of all the road crashes happens at one location, La Paz. People are hurt, people are killed just at La Paz intersection. I must admit that there are a couple of contributing factors to it, but we can minimize it when we take certain steps without even providing infrastructure. By next month, we're working with the Bloomberg Philanthropics Initiative to provide certain facilities that will ease the traffic situation, and also because we have spotted it, and that's the one project. Pedestrian safety is one of my key priority areas that I'm working on. So we're providing like speed humps and pedestrian walkway, provide intelligent traffic lights just to control the situation at La Paz. But in addition to that, you have seen traders that have taken the median. And La Paz Highway is a 4-lane highway.
Right.
You and I drive, and we drive not less than 80 kilometers per hour on that road. A brake failure can kill a lot of people there, in addition to all the mess that happens over there. So we're working also with the MTTD on this particular project, just to make sure that it's a major highway that connects the whole of Accra to Tema and to Central Region and other areas as well.
You mentioned the median, and it's caught my attention though, before we get into issues of sanitation. Most of the median in Accra, you will find livestock, cow, sheep, goat, grazing in the open in the city of Accra.
Well,
has it come to your attention?
Well, I know of only one location that this thing happens. Not most of the places in Accra, just to place it on record.
I've seen some at Ridge. I've seen some right behind the Flagstaff House. And I'm sure people know other locations as well.
No, it's I know what happens from Nima to Kanda.
Okay.
So, Nima, it's where a lot of livestock breeding goes on.
But I'm saying that I've seen some around Ridge. Yes. The Ridge runabout towards ex-President Rawlings' home, the connection towards GIJ. I've seen some there.
Yeah,
and I felt so sad.
I have seen not cow. I've seen a horse there on 2 occasions. I don't know where you're coming from. Well, we're taking note of that one, and we'll be working on it. And thank you for that reminder as well. But it happens often between Kanda and Nima. Right. In any case, it is wrong, and we need to work on that one. I do not believe that we have to concrete all our medians and all the floods. Right. I think that the way to go is to green. But the concern of a lot of people is that once you green, who's going to maintain it? We need to define the kind of city that we want to live in and make sure that we work towards
what kind of collaboration do you have with the parks and gardens, for example? They will plant it, they will nurture it. What's your link with them? Because you believe that we should green it.
I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but we have a big project of what we call a crab beautification project.
So they are involved in your plan?
I will come back for a detailed engagement.
What is your relationship with the parks and gardens?
Parks and gardens, it's on that project.
Okay.
In fact, when you get to East Legon, you see there's a lot of horticulturists at East Legon. Right. We had engaged them, we had workshop them. There are a lot of things that we are doing behind the scenes. Okay. We had workshop with them. They are providing arts, with also additional information as to the kind of flowering and greening that we are supposed to do on all these things. Once we launch it properly, then we'll see what we are about to do. I don't like talking when I have not launched anything about it.
Sanitation is crucial, but before we get to sanitation, you've seen TV3's expose on the sex trade at Circle.
Sure.
So when are we taking action? Right now, the rail lines have been encroached. It's supposed to be 50 meters on each side. Now it's nearly a meter.
In fact, it's supposed to be 100 meters.
Exactly.
Not even 50
exactly.
Meters. But I've heard people say
50 meters. Because the last time I spoke with the railway guys, they told me 50 meters.
Yeah.
What is the problem around that place? Because I know that you have gone to move the people there once, and the people are back. What is it?
Well, the major problem with the railway line is that, indeed, we are managing the city, but it's not every land that belongs to us.
Okay.
It's the Ghana Railway Company that is supposed to manage their rail, and then the 100 meters away from the rail, there shouldn't be any activity within that range. You'll be shocked that the Ghana Railway Company had leased and licensed almost all the land around that area.
They had leased the land?
Oh, yeah. As I speak to you, there are some people around the June 4th area that have taken AMA to court for having demolished their makeshift, structures around that.
Those people have permits?
They don't have that. Don't worry about it. They don't have permit in the first place. So we know that once you don't have permit, you can't build. But it makes it difficult for another state authority to also seek to, perpetuate a certain illegality, for want of a better word. And then you come back to intervene.
Okay.
If you have not even in the first place licensed or leased any of your properties along that stretch, the people know very well that morally and consciously they don't have the right to be there. But then you have licensed part of your land to them, so they come in and say that, oh, railway. But we know that once you don't have permit, we have the right to.
When are we getting them off the place?
Oh, of course, it's part of the Avenor area.
So by the 8th of January,
they'll be gone. Of course.
Okay. Let's talk about sanitation briefly before.
But we are starting from the Central Business District.
Okay.
And then we extend gradually into.
We need to wrap up because I understand you have to go on 3FM 92.7.
Really?
Our crowd-based radio station, the best in the capital. But we're able to generate about 3,000 tons of refuse daily. Records prove that we're able to collect only 2,500.
Sure.
So there's regularly a backlog of 500. I heard Mr. Kofi Adda talk about landfill sites in 2017. I was so disappointed. Are you thinking along the same lines, or are you looking at recycling?
I think that probably you didn't get him right. Maybe we're talking about integrated landfill site. Because
what's the difference, really?
A landfill site is where you have maybe a pit and then you just be dumping it.
Okay.
An integrated landfill site is basically where you are not just dumping, but there could be a recycling there, there could be a waste to energy
Could be.
there. You know, but that's why I'm saying that
Singapore is importing rubbish from
yes.
other parts of the country, other parts of the world.
That's, you know,
why are we talking landfill sites in 2017?
When we are talking about landfills, that wherever the waste has been carried to somewhere before you can treat the waste. It can be a direct to a company that will receive it, or you take it to a landfill site where we treat the waste from the landfill. So the company could be the recycling or the waste to energy company could be located within the location of the landfill.
Some have said
site,
that we don't have the political will to do it. Mayor after mayor, recycling has become a big problem, and the issues of banning plastic, for example, is most critical, because if you look at the mass of refuse we have, plastic is a major one.
I agree.
Are we looking at banning plastics from your point of view as boss of Accra?
No, but let me answer the question in this way about the landfill site in economics. You see, we may be thinking big, but the issues must be solved fundamentally. At the moment in Accra and in this country, the subject matter that we should focus on is on how to collect the waste.
How to collect it.
It is when you are able to collect it and shepherd the waste, then it makes economic sense for you to invest that all the waste are collected and shepherded to this location, and then I can quantify the waste and say that this type of waste, I can use it for recycling, I can use it for and even when you talk about waste to energy, people really sometimes don't understand the character and the composition of the waste that you have.
Right.
About 40 to 50% of the waste, it's organic.
Right.
And that is not suitable for
recycling.
For energy. So you can use it for composting,
manure, and
so
all of that.
That's what we are trying to do. So there are companies at the moment that we encourage them that they are doing composting. There's a company called Yakora that's has been.
But we're told also, Mr. Mayor, that most of the companies that you have privatized to collect the rubbish delay almost every time in collecting the rubbish, which is a big problem.
I admit that they have capacity issues.
So if they are not working, sack them.
You sack them, you are looking for replacement.
And you can't find replacement.
It's a huge capital investment.
When are we completing the Nima Gata project?
The Nima Gata project
is stalled. It's gathering rubbish now.
I agree, but it's much bigger project.
So when are we going back to it?
I don't have the details.
The folks at Nima are watching you. Tell them something.
I honestly don't have the details, but once it's come up, I'm going to follow. Personally, I'm a Nima guy. I spend a lot of time.
So you can't make a promise to them?
It's difficult because the project is not directly under my jurisdiction.
But it is in your city.
Of course. So
are you not worried about it?
I am worried that I'm going to follow up.
So tell them something.
My assurance to the people of Nima, and especially with the Gata, is that we're going to follow up. I'm going to work closely with the...
Do we have timelines for this?
It will be difficult because I'm not the one in control.
So it's January, 8 January, you're starting your decongestion and all of that. We don't have timelines for
of
a
course,
big
I'm doing
like
the decongestion, so I've given you timelines.
Right.
My timeline, I'm starting from 8, and I know that there will be possible backlash. People will question, whether you have a political will or not. We have married the courage to be able to sustain it, and after 3 months of sustaining it, people will see the benefit and realizing that, oh, is this Accra that we are all looking for? So it's the matter of us sustaining it. It's just a matter of just going there 1 week, 2 weeks that you.
Mr. Mayor, I wish you well. Next time we'll talk about how you're generating money to fund some of these projects, and perhaps the footbridges, why people are still selling on them. But I'm grateful. Thank you very much. Ni Ajay Soa is the MC or DC, MC of the city of Accra, and has joined us here. We'll be back with some more here on NewDay.
Welcome back. So of course it's time to wrap up because it's just about 9 and we won't say anything long because it's time for you to go and do some work out there. Certainly you've joined us right from 6 a.m. till 9 a.m. That's a good one. So now it's time to work.
Yeah, we need to go now. It's Wednesday. Make sure the second day of the year counts and keep to your New Year resolution. Keep focused and measure it. It has to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. Smart. Make sure you're working at it. Can't lose God.
Tomorrow will be bright.
Tomorrow will be bright. Yeah.
Another weekend, the first weekend of the
The
year.
first weekend of the year.
It should be interesting, except that the pockets are dry, so people will mellow.
You know, January has 5 separate weeks, so
we'll see what happens.
It's a long one.
But hey, once you have live, you can always.
There's hope.
You will know what trust and obey means. We'll see you tomorrow.
Have a
blessed day.
All right.